Hello, everyone. When do I wrap this, Kathy? I will call to order the Personal Policy Curriculum Committee meeting, which was duly noticed on November 4th, 2022, through a posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin 1984. I need to move to the agenda, which I don't have up on my screen. Safety message, and that is me. Thank you. See, I told everyone that Mrs. Jensen would keep me in order, and she has already. She has proven my point. The safety message for tonight, I actually am going to be dedicating all of my safety messages this year to pedestrian safety following Commissioner Herta's safety message at our last school board meeting, and also in remembrance of our student that we lost to a pedestrian fatality last month, sadly. So one of the things that has been on my mind lately, and I've done a little research with Wisconsin state law, is that I think a lot of people are not necessarily aware as drivers that when there are pedestrians at a crosswalk, it is actually required by law for vehicles to yield to pedestrians and allow them to cross safely. I know that there are many drivers I've spoken to recently that have mentioned that they didn't realize that they had to stop. They thought that pedestrians just had to wait for vehicles to pass, and that is not true. It is a Wisconsin state law. Another law talks about intersections and the closeness in which vehicles can park in relation to our intersections. And it states that vehicles must be parked at least 15 feet back from any intersections, including also crosswalks. Vehicles must be parked no closer than 15 feet to any marked crosswalks. And if you look around town in Janesville, I think at least I remember there always were painted areas on the curb, the yellow, that I think were clearly etched in our mind that, okay, if there's a yellow curb, we can't park there. If you look around, those markings are really not there. Either they were once there and they've faded, or they have not been repainted at all. And just as a reminder to all of us, whether there's a yellow marking or not, if there's a crosswalk, if there's an intersection, your vehicle needs to be parked at least 15 feet away, which is a big distance, and I think there's a lot of violations in our school zones if we would start to pay attention to that. So just keep that in mind, and you can look forward to more pedestrian safety throughout the year from me. I have a whole list. Moving on to our agenda. We need to adopt our, Denise, is this when I should read the message first before we go to the adopt the agenda? We have just a little message, and it is in the notice that was presented. But notice is hereby given that school board members who are not members of this committee may attend this meeting so as to constitute a quorum of the Board of Education. Any such board member in attendance will be for information gathering only and will not result in direct decision making by the Board of Education at the committee meeting. Moving forward, I need a motion to adopt the agenda for November 7th, 2022 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Herta and Commissioner Hannawell the second. All right. Oh, a vote for all in favor. Okay, all in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? There are none. Thank you. Moving forward to our presentation of professional development opportunities for employees presented by Dr. DeGraff.
All right, good afternoon. Today I just want to take a little bit of time to share with you our professional development plan that we have developed as a district for not only the professional development plan we have in August, but a comprehensive professional development plan that we have for the full school year, as well as directly aligning some of our professional development objectives to our district goals. So as many of you know, in August, we have teachers start, this year we had them start on August 22nd and through September 1st. All of those dates include work days and professional development days. So I'll talk about that a little bit in a minute and share a few details with you about that. But we've also embedded this year some professional development days throughout the school year. And so we had our first professional development day in September, at the end of September. We recently had one on Friday. And then we have days in February, March, and April. And we've worked closely with the Human Resources Department with Scott as they develop the calendar. And one of the, in working with the development of the calendar, we wanted to determine what professional development days we would utilize in the calendar in order to help accomplish our district goals. And so it's been very helpful this year as we've had some days throughout the year, so they're not all in the front end. So previously we had over 2 weeks of PD days in August, but we narrowed that down to more like a week and then put those days throughout the year. And so, for example, it's been very valuable to help meet our district goals. When we adopted a new ELA resource in elementary this year for Wonders, the teachers had a training in August, but August is also a time where there are all different kinds of things that they're thinking about and preparing for their classroom. So that professional development is helpful, but it's also a lot while they're trying to get ready for the school year. So what we're able to do is kind of chunk that training a little bit so it's more meaningful throughout the year. So for example, in September, the training around Wonders focused on how to utilize the assessments within Wonders and use the data dashboard. And so it was just as the teachers were getting ready to do their Unit 1 assessment. And so they had the training for about 2 hours, then they had 2 hours to go dig into their assessments and look at their data dashboards. Then we just had a PD on Friday, and now we took that second chunk and we trained them more on what does small group instruction look like in reading. And then we gave them a couple of hours to dig into the components of their resource in planning for small group instruction and how to meet those specific needs of students. So throughout the year, it really helps us chunk it a little more for teachers so it doesn't come all at once and they're not overwhelmed, and we're able to do that throughout K-12. So that's been very valuable. So part of our goal has been from just moving from that August PD to make PD throughout the year. So what does that look like? So I have up here on the screen a little bit about our comprehensive plan for the year. So as we look at the plan, we started with August, and we'll dig into that in a minute again. We start with what are our professional development objectives? What are we trying to accomplish? And so every professional development that we have to indicate what professional development objective it aligns with. So we know that we're doing professional development that's meaningful and relevant to our district goals, and we're not just doing PD because we think it's something that might be helpful. So we created each month, what does professional development look like in the district? And then as you go from month to month, that includes where our PD days are. So here, when you get to September and we had our September day, then we, whoops, I don't know if I'll be able to do that. I'm going to be able to get back to that. Maybe if I go back this way. That link takes you directly to what happened on September 30th. So then as we move throughout the year, you'll see what's happening each month. And then what we've done differently as well. So it really forced us to plan out our professional development for the entire year and really think about how each month is going to work closer towards our district goals. And then at the end of all of this, each building puts in their specific professional development plan. So when we get to here, I probably won't be able to click on this link, but each school has a link, and that's their professional development plan for the year. And then for example, on September 4th, if I wanted to know, what Craig was, or on November 4th, if I wanted to know what Craig was doing for their professional development, I click on that link. I know what the purpose of their professional development is and what activities they'll be doing. So if I want to go out to Craig and observe that professional development, I can do that as well. So each of these includes the link to the district professional development plan for that school for the year, and they have to show how it's aligned to the district goals in each of those plans too. So we've really been trying to get tighter on what does our district professional development plan look like and how does each building plan align with the district plan. And so this document really provides that comprehensive overview of what professional development looks like. If you have a handout with you, and so that was kind of an overview of what the professional development plan looks like for the year. But then here is just a piece of that, and what did August look like? And so when we start making this professional development plan, it really actually in a couple months, when Chris and I work with the Learning and Innovation team, we'll take a full day and we'll draft in January or February. So in a couple months, we already start talking about what will the professional development plan look like next month. We make a draft, and then from there for the next 2 to 3 months, we keep refining that draft. So by summer, before teachers leave, they have an idea of what professional development will look like in August when they come back. And one of the things we try to balance, if you look at this plan, you notice that Monday and Tuesday, there's nothing on there for professional development. We feel it's important as teachers come back to school that they don't jump into professional development, because the first thing they'll be thinking about is, I've got to get my classroom ready. So we gave them 2 full days without any meetings or professional development to prepare and get their classroom ready for when students began. So we really tried to find the right balance between work days and professional development. And then from there, we laid out each professional development day, as you can see in the document. Wednesday was some of you attended the district welcome back day, so that's always welcoming everybody back. It's when our certified and non-certified staff are all back, and Superintendent Holtzman is able to share that district message for the year as well. And then each day is broken down by elementary, middle, and high school activities, so that's separated. And I also have to say for the Learning and Innovation team that the coordinators for each of those content areas do a great job of planning and developing the professional development. We work closely with Kim for training for special ed and student services. That's included in here. And then we also have what we just call not necessarily professional development, but specific just trainings that we need, such as we need med distribution training, we need how to do attendance codes training. So some of those are just skills training that are important to get the school year started. So those are all included in there as well. So you can see it's a pretty comprehensive plan, including what is the topic, what's the PD objective, who's facilitating, what building. And then as we get to the end of the plan, again on Wednesday, August 31st, we leave that as a work day as well, because in a planning day on September 1st, all the schools have some type of welcome back conference. And so we want the teachers to feel well prepared again and not in professional development that day. So that's kind of a comprehensive overview quickly of what our year-long professional development plan looks like, as well as what is involved in developing that August plan as well. And so as we think forward to beginning to work with Scott and the Human Resources Department on the upcoming calendar, we really want to look again at what do we need for professional development in order to help teachers be able to learn in a meaningful way rather than trying to all cram it in at the beginning, so that they really feel that it's more meaningful and really able to walk out the next day and apply it in their classroom. So that's just kind of a brief overview of what happens in the process of planning for professional development.
Questions, comments, Jen?
Thank you. How much input does the staff have in establishing the PD topics? And then I have a second question after that, so.
Sure. Some of those things, as far as it's kind of decided within our learning and innovation department, or Kim might decide for special ed when we know we have certain trainings that have to happen or we have a new curriculum. And so that's not necessarily asking the staff. It's like we know we need this as part of implementing a new resource. But you know, as throughout the year during professional development, if we receive feedback from staff on different types of PD that they'd like to have, we also offer that, and that's in a different plan. So we have Frontline, where we house all of our professional development during the year that teachers can take. That's also optional. So if we hear something about, you know, teachers want more training on, for example, like the science of reading, then we'll look for different PDs during the year that we'll post on our site, and then they can attend if they choose to. So.
Okay. And then the second one has to do specifically with, you said each school develops their own. How is that? I would assume that that's where the staff would have really even more input, because now you're talking specific school, you know, and who specifically develops the PD for the individual schools?
Sure. So the individual schools have their school improvement plan, and we shared those plans with the board. Part of that school improvement plan is with each of their goals, they have to share what professional development they will do to meet their goal in their school improvement plan. So their professional development is outlined in their school improvement plan and then put into this plan. And so their school improvement plan is developed with the principal and the leadership team, and then they get feedback from all staff. And so that's how they have input in the professional development. And then who delivers that may be the building principal. Sometimes it's teachers delivering the professional development, or an instructional coach or reading specialist, but they determine that.
And then I'm going to make an assumption, like anytime someone goes to a conference workshop, there's always a critique or an assessment done as to how did this help you, or did you grow? Do you get feedback then directly from staff on specific PD topics where you can then look at and say, we're missing the mark here, or there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest here, let's go on to something different? Or
Yeah, so we do two different things. One, in general, you know, any of the PD that we a lot of times do in August or throughout the year, we'll do an exit survey with staff. And so we'll gather data on, you know, what they really found valuable in the workshop, what they would like to see differently, what can they apply in their classroom tomorrow. And then when they take something outside of the professional development structure that we have, in our out-of-district professional development form that they complete, so once they complete that training, they go in and give us feedback on the professional development, and they'll say, this was very valuable, this is how I'm going to use it in my classroom, or I wouldn't recommend that we offer this anymore in the, you know, in the district, kind of thing too. So we have different tools for that.
Any other questions?
I just want to thank you for, and I apologize for my lost voice, for the thoroughness of the plans, and especially how they align with all the goals, since I know a lot of hard work has been put into those goals and alignment so that everything kind of moves forward on the same page. In addition, I really do appreciate the move from a full 2 weeks of PD from the student as a former teacher, and giving those teachers 2 days in their classroom. That's all I ever wanted, was just to get back into my classroom and start messing around and getting it ready for students, because that's what we were all there for. Not to say that this wasn't important, but I never had 2 full weeks of PD. I think that would have drove me nuts, and it wouldn't have been meaningful. So I just appreciate the fact that the leadership team here in administration looked at that and offered that to teachers to help them ultimately be better for the students in their classroom. So I appreciate that.
And I'm going to piggyback with what you said, Lisa. I agree with all of that. I also am continuously impressed with your organization and the whole team that puts all of this. This is such a huge undertaking. It's kind of mind-boggling, and this that you have up here with like active links to. I mean, I that's so. I mean, it's really professional, which obviously you are such a high-class professional, but I just I recognize that. So thank you. It's amazing. Another thing that stands out to me is our continual evaluation and self-reflection as a district. I have not seen us say as a district, well, that's the way things have always been. I don't know that I've heard that in my time here. And I just applaud all of you for recognizing areas of growth and reflecting on, that didn't work so well, so we're not going to keep doing something that maybe isn't best serving our staff or ultimately our students. So thank you for your willingness to reflect and move forward and try new things, because it's meaningful, and I recognize that. So thanks for your time on this.
Yeah, and one thing I was going to add that we've added that's not a part of this document is, as we've had onboarding with a lot of new teachers, we have teachers that we train to onboard the new teachers. So it's not coming from us. So rather than they miss the Wonders training or they miss the Bridges training, so they come, for a day or two ahead of time, and then the first grade teacher trains the new first grade teacher, or the ninth grade science teacher trains the new ninth grade science teacher. So I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from that, saying the teachers appreciate hearing from the teachers rather than us, I guess. But
that's such a
It's peer-to-peer.
It
Yes,
is.
yeah.
That's so valuable. I'm really happy that you shared that. And I'm also reflecting back to the start of the school year, and I got to be present for part of it. And I'm looking at Tina back there, and I know how much effort you put in to just our start of the school year being so fantastic. And I mean, I was so proud to be a part of the school district of Janesville and be able to be a part of that. So thanks again for helping us all get off, all of you that worked on such a positive start this year. I'm so glad.
All right, thank you.
Okay, moving forward, let me get back to my agenda here. Thanks for all of that. Now we are moving to the presentation on insurance enrollment audit results with Ms. Johnson. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, thank you. Before we get started into this, it's that time of year where we have kind of this like 30,000 foot overview of where we were and where we are and where we are headed. So it's kind of that health benefit audit. Oh, wrong way. Okay, perfect. So we have the agenda is a 2022 renewal recap, the projection, review and reporting, the Family Advantage Health Plan, and then communication planning and updates going forward. Just as a gentle reminder as we go through this is very fluid, right? I mean, it's hard to tell. The numbers are accurate as far as enrollment is concerned and where they are placed in the schedule. So from that perspective, it is 100% up to date and accurate. Where it gets, we have to make sure that we have the business budget finance versus the health insurance finance piece of that. So remember that it's not really looked at savings, it's all about reallocating funds. And then in addition to that, remembering that the school board last year agreed or determined that they would take on the full brunt of the $1.3 million increase to allow for the space of the Family Advantage Health Plan to do the work that it needed to move forward. So from a budgeting perspective, that was something that we discussed, we brought up, and made very clear that that was how that was going to roll forward. So as you look at numbers tonight or see anything with that, it's directly in relation to that, that decision made by the board last year. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Matt Chadwick, Vice President of Cunningham and Butler. He is our insurance broker who you have worked with and seen multiple times. Matt?
The down one? All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so I have 3 sections that I'm going over, and then I think Tina is going to do the communication piece to it. So I always try to do where we're where we were, where we are, where we're going, kind of thing. So in terms of the renewal recap, this is just a summary of all the different vendors that the school district does use. So the really majority one is the medical plan, which is the vast majority of cost. So you can see dual choice of Dean and Mercy. Dean initially offered almost a 13% increase over last year, driven primarily because of claims. Mercy was under a rate cap, meaning the most that they were able to increase rates was 9%, and that's the route that they chose. We were able to negotiate Dean down to about 11.4%, and that's where those final renewals ended up coming in at. Dental went from 7% to 4%, and pretty much everything else stayed or was under rate guarantee. Everything was flat. For upcoming renewals, Mercy is also, we were able to negotiate another rate cap. So it's a 9% rate cap on Mercy. Dean has no rate cap going into the 7/1/23, and all other lines are also going to be up for renewal come 7/1 of 2023. The projections, so this is a busy slide, but what this is essentially saying is how the plan is priced and split between the employee and the district. So you can see the four main active plans. The first two columns are the Mercy plans. The first one is the HMO, and then the second is the PPO plan or point of service plan, however they want to allocate or showcase that. It's more expensive, and then Dean is the other two. So the difference between the HMO and the PPO is the HMO only allows in-network coverage, so only going to Dean or Mercy. The PPO has an out-of-network benefit, and it's really for people who live outside of the area. The way that it's priced is what you'll see, there's 3 rows down, you see SDOJ contributions. It is a defined contribution. So what that means is the district allocates the exact same amount of money regardless of which plan a person chooses. And the reason that that's important is that that will protect the district against what's called adverse selection. So what you don't want to have happen is for you incenting or you paying more for people to take a more expensive plan. So that's the reason, and it's been going on for a couple of years, but we have this defined contribution plan. The top line is what the premiums are from the carriers. So you can see from the Mercy Care 1500 HMO plan, it's I think that was what, 500. I want to make sure I'm reading it. $516 total premium per month, and the renewal went to 563. So you can see how that transitions from the last plan year to the current plan year. Okay, so I'm going to use the term the word projection. Which is going to be different than the actual budget. So just know these are and were projected numbers. So what we did is we took a look at, going back really to 2020, what was projected to be the total spend, and then ultimately what the net spend was for the district, and then what came in as actual, and then move forward was the following year, what was projected, what came in as actual, and then most recently, just during this last renewal, what was projected, and now what is coming in as maybe an annual actualized, so a year-to-date actual. So the way to read this is you can go back in time for a while, but the top line in the story here is really the enrollments. So you can see back on 2020, 2021, it was projected that we were going to have a total of 1,073 active employees on the plan. Actual turned out to be 1,090, which was a little bit higher, but the majority of those people were going to be single as opposed to family, which is less expensive, which is why you see some of those changes in pricing. For 21-22, projected was 1,063 because we had a lot of part-time people in 2020 that became benefit eligible. Actual turned out to be 1,047, so we saw a reduction in the total gross number of people who were taking the plan. In 22-23, this most recent projection year, we assumed or anticipated 1,061 total, and year to date, that's coming in at 1,039. So we are projecting less than anticipated enrolled members and enrolled employees ultimately into the Janesville Health Plan. Now, if we go down a couple lines, what you'll see is under the thick black line, you'll see net SDOJ costs. Essentially what this is this is total premium plus your HSA seating minus what you anticipate from employee contributions to get the net cost. The 2021-2022 actual shows $13.4 million is what the gross spend was, or the net spend rather was. Projected, that was going up to 14.5 million. That had to do with those increases that we saw from the renewal. And then annualized actual year to date has that number being 14.3. So it's a $203,000 difference compared to what projected was. A lot of that is because of the reduced enrollment counts on both of the plans, and also factoring in the Family Advantage Health Plan, which is that program that was put in place in July 1st to help guide and incent people to choose other plans while giving them a $0 deductible plan through their spouse. So all in, we're spending $515,000, or projected to spend $515,000 annually less in insurance premium, and we're giving back about $185,000 for this plan. And then we lose out on a little bit of employee contributions, but net, the projection is right now about $203,000. Now, that number is going to grow because there is, at present time, 11 more families that have signed up for the Family Advantage Health Plan that will go live on, I think, January 1st of this year, which should project to another over $100,000 differential. Any questions on that? I know that's a complicated slide. Yes?
So was it to our advantage to have the 22 less people enrolled than we projected?
It is to your advantage from a
But
financial
really, that's
perspective.
only 11, because out of the 22, you just said there's 11 more coming on.
There's 11
board.
more. So
That'd be 11, or is
Oh.
it 33?
well, so there's about 22 less than what was projected
Right.
currently, and then that will increase by another 11
Oh, okay.
moving forward. So that, yep, moving to the Family
And
Advantage
that's
Health
an
Plan.
advantage to us.
Yes, and
because
that is
of
an
the,
advantage to you. The calculated is every family four that moves off of the Janesville plan onto the Family Advantage Plan is estimated to save the district $10,000 per family.
And that was that plan that we talked about this
Yes.
past summer, correct? Where we wanted to explain that to every
Exactly.
individual. They can, okay, thank you.
Exactly. Yes.
So I may be getting ahead of myself, and I apologize, but we're kind of on the same topic. Is this are we seeing the numbers that we were hoping to see?
We are behind the numbers that we were hoping. So there were, and we did a lot of, I don't know, Tina probably wants to talk a little bit about that, but there were, we were basing that number on what we'd seen in other school districts and other municipalities put out in terms of ultimately getting and incenting and educating to get maybe 10% the first year of eligible people to transition, and then over a 2-year period of time get close to maybe 20% as people became more comfortable. I think there was some, and that's why we invested in those individual meetings, those one-on-one meetings that everyone went through. I think that, without speaking out of turn, I think there was some concern and cynicism that was occurring within some people. But what we've seen and I got this slide coming up soon that just shows what people have experienced so far, and there have been those nice wins of people, a win for everybody, of people who chose to go on this plan and then has seen the reimbursements come through the way that it was intended. So I think that the more that this goes through, the more comfortable people will be in looking to explore this.
Thank you for that. I just have one question. As I'm thinking about these rate increases, like Mercy's another 9%, and
Yeah.
last year was 9%. We don't know what Dean's going to be yet. Is there ever, like, to what end? Because, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, Dan's back there. I understand there's inflation, like, I get all of this, but I'm thinking 5-10 years down the road.
Yeah.
I'm panicking.
Yeah.
Because 9% in 1 year, and that is the lower amount compared to Dean. So I'm concerned about longevity.
Yeah, and I think that is a concern that every employer is having, not just employers who are localized to only HMOs, but also ones that are trying to get out of the insurance world of it by being self-funded. We're seeing, not to get too much into some of the nerdery of everything, but there's really 5 massive pressure points that are and will be hitting the health system in, I would say, the next 3 to 5 years. And a lot of it just it's been 20 years in the making. This is what's happening. So everyone is experiencing and will experience. I think that Janesville is positioned very well for a couple reasons. Number one is you're able to be in an HMO environment, which is the most efficient way to buy healthcare that exists, especially in the state. So that is one thing that is incredibly helpful. 2, you have been able to manage and maintain a pretty competitive and rich benefit where you have the opportunity to make, if you needed to, make some potential plan design changes. There are a lot of employers who are already at a $3,000, $6,000 deductible that don't have a lot more to move and to go to.
I'm going to go back to something that you had said, that this wasn't the percentage that we thought of when
Yeah.
we looked at other municipalities, because I remember that conversation. So what is that 22 plus 11? What is that percentage compared to what we thought the target was?
So the target was 10 within the first year, and it was 10 on 7-1, and I think that we got, what was it, team, about 5? It was about half. Yeah. It was about 5%, so this brings it up to maybe about 6%.
Okay.
So again, we'll have, we got some communication plans that we're going through. I think there was a lot of interest, but the feedback that I got, and maybe Tina can speak different, was it's of interest, but almost wanting to wait and see.
Yeah,
make sure
no, I get that. I just wondered where we were compared to what those other those targets that we were trying to reach. But I
Right.
completely understand people are kind of sketchy when
Sure.
not
When they're trying to make
understanding.
those decisions. And I will say, we had 68 individuals that were ready to move off the plan. We're ready to move to the FAHP. And so when you start to look at these numbers, we knew that we were going to come up against some hesitancy, right? And so when we talk a little bit later in this presentation about communication, all of those pieces are taken into consideration. I think that we did run into, gosh, I don't really know. And then we ran into some employers outside of the district were not allowing employees to cancel their HSA. And so when that happens, they take a tax hit, I guess. And so some people chose, yes, it's still worth it for us to do that. Others were like, no, I want to keep the HSA. There was a feeling of a gotcha. And so right now we're really working to build our group of people that have this plan, who it's working for. And Matt's going to go over some numbers as to how well it's working for us, the district, and for our employees as we move forward. And then I'll give you the idea of how we're going to communicate and make this work a little bit more. I'm excited to know that we have 11 additional families moving off of the plan, just because that shows momentum, and that shows that, okay, we're going to get more people on this, and we're going to really amp up our communications and look toward the future as far as our next open enrollment is concerned. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so with the Family Advantage Health Plan, these are the numbers directly from the administrator from here. So there were even though the enrollment on the medical plan dropped by 22, there are 24 total employees that are on the Family Advantage Health Plan, and this represents a total of 77 members. So 77 employees, spouses, and children. And you think about each one of those actuarially are going to be somewhere between $5,000 and $6,500 of claims cost per year. So this is why we do this. It's not just kicking people off of the plan; it's allowing them to have coverage, and in some cases, way more competitive coverage that's you're not paying for, which is, or at least 100% of, which is helpful. So what this and some of these are just the numbers before are going to be the more accurate ones, because those are related exactly to how the premium was offset. But what this is essentially saying is of these 24 and of these 77, you can look at every one of these variables that are here. So the savings, the anticipated savings in contributions from the employer to the employee's HSA, about $25,000, about $400,000 of annual rate equivalency, so the avoided premiums that you're paying to Dean or Mercy. You forego about $50,000 worth of contribution that you would get back in terms of those employee, but then you factor in the cash reimbursements, the estimated HRA savings, and that sort of thing, and it comes out to, from this, was anticipated, $179,000 in savings. What we saw was about 203. So it's a little bit more savings that was anticipated here, but you can see, from some of these other items that we've had 16, almost 17% of employees are trending a little bit higher than anticipated, which is fine. 83% of employees are trending in terms of their reimbursements a little bit less than anticipated, which is pretty good. And then you've had 7 people who haven't used it, and one member who's already hit their max. So a couple months into the year, one person has already hit that $1,500 deductible or whatever their deductible was from the other plan, and it's been reimbursed. So they have seen this, at least one member, and there's probably, of the 77, there's probably 50 others who have submitted a claim and been able to get it reimbursed. So it's working the way it's supposed to be working, and those are the types of stories that will organically grow and support, yeah, this is working the way it's supposed to be working. And I wouldn't be surprised from what I'm seeing trend looking like in increases, especially on fully insured for January 1st renewals of this year. I've seen 72%, 40% increases from carriers, 30. Like, if you're middle double digits, a lot of people are pretty happy about where that's ended up. So a lot of these renewals are just coming out right now, hitting some of the other employers. They got some tough decisions to make. Their open enrollment will probably be in 3 weeks to 4 weeks, and you might see a lot of other people pretty interested because they weren't anticipating rates going up, their contributions going up 15, 20% this year. So if 11% is the number we already have, any more than that is just going to be a little bit gravy on top, which I'm excited about. Okay. Lastly is employee. Employee. So, yep, employee. Yeah. All right. Tina, do you want to talk about the communication piece of it? All right. There you are.
Thank you, Matt. Really appreciate that. A couple of other things that we can look at when we start to think about anticipation for February, because that's kind of when you'll see us come back and we'll have another conversation. We start talking about what does that look like for next year. Some of it is going to be other options, right? We've talked about them in the past. A cash in lieu has really come up quite a bit with this particular plan because of the FAHP. So that's something that we're going to probably talk about next time we have a conversation. The other piece that we really probably need to start thinking about is the threshold for HDHP in providing an HSA. So what I mean by that is the IRS creates the threshold on the first of the calendar year. So January 1st, 2023, this coming January, the threshold changes the rate to $1,500 and $3,000, which is what we are. So what happens then is we renew in July and we come back January 1st of 2024, it will likely be higher than that, which makes us ineligible as a high deductible health care plan with an HSA. So we're probably going to have some conversations surrounding raising deductibles and having, different ways of looking at that. So just to kind of give you the idea of those are all pieces that influence this whole big picture as we work forward. In addition to that, then we have the communication planning, and I just mixed my PowerPoint presentations. So what are we doing to go forward as far as particularly this Family Advantage Health Plan? We're hosting webinars. We're going to be communicating. We're reaching out to some of our people who are already enrolled and having positive experiences and kind of doing just a spotlight feature on them. There'll be guests in our webinars to ask questions. We're going out into the buildings during lunch periods to sit in the teachers' lounges and have conversations with people, just sitting back, just general conversations about their health insurance and questions they may have about the Family Advantage Health Plan. So I really, like I said, I'm looking forward to the communication process and connecting with our employees to try to get them to understand the benefit of going to the Family Advantage Health Plan, and the great work that Cottingham and Butler does to help us get all of those pieces together to communicate that out. In addition, for not only Family Advantage Health Plan, but we're really still hitting on that wellness, whether it's financial wellness, whether it's mental health. We have been really every month hosting webinars for our employees. They've been well attended. We get them recorded and we push those out separately on a separate day, because we've got a lot of people that can't make the webinars because they're coaching or doing other things. So really just trying to educate people and retain them here in the school district of Janesville. Any questions for me regarding that?
I like what I
Thank you, both of you. We appreciate your work on this and helping our district stay financially and responsible, and also providing great healthcare services for our members. We appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Mel. Yes.
So, thanks for your presentation. We're moving on to the 1.6. Is that?
Yes.
Okay, overview of staff retirement policy. Ms. Johnson, up
Yes,
again.
indeed. Once again, so this isn't new. This is information we share year after year. But it's always really important for us to keep it in the forefront of everybody's mind, especially as the years start to tick toward that July 1st of 2025, where things change a little bit for our retirees. So first and foremost, you hear a lot about OPEB. And what is OPEB? Other Post-Employment Benefits is what OPEB stands for. And that for the School District of Janesville is the retirement benefit here. So that is employees who are 55 to 64. And they're grouped. So anybody eligible in the School District of Janesville has to work 10 years consecutively full-time, that's 7 hours or more, just prior to retirement. They also have to have been hired on or before July 1st of 2015 to receive the health benefit of the OPEB, and then anybody hired after July 1st of 2015 will receive only the payout for the accrued sick time, but they still have those eligibility requirements, 55 to 64, 10 years consecutive full-time service. So that's kind of your requirement as far as health benefits are concerned. Okay, in the School District of Janesville, employees have the opportunity to retire on November 1st, to declare November 1st for the end of the semester, or February 1st for the end of the school year. November 1st has already come and gone, and we did not have any retirements for that July 1st for our certified staff. So our next deadline will be February 1st, and Scott and my team will be working to communicate that information out and getting those retirements information pieces out there. On our next slide, which I missed already. I think I went too far ahead, sorry, there we go. Okay, so employees hired on or before July 1st receive board paid benefits. So how does that work? Well, unused sick leave conversion for additional months of coverage, or it gets paid out into a TSA. So bank one, you have sick leave days accrued on or before July 1st of 2015. Those days can be paid or accrued at $147 per day. And then what you do is you take that dollar amount and you buy additional months of health insurance. Okay, it's the only thing you can use those days for. Okay, you can use them for FMLA while you're still working, but in retirement, as it pertains to retirement, you can only use them to buy health insurance. Okay, if that bank takes you to age 65, then the School District of Janesville will take any of the days that you've accrued after July 1st of 2015 and pay it out into a tax sheltered annuity. If you are not 65, you utilize those days and get you as close to 65 as possible in buying additional months of health coverage. Make sense? All right. So that's kind of how this whole thing works throughout. Now we're going to go through the employees, this one employee group. The only employee group that does this is anybody who is employed after July 1st of 2015. They do not receive the opportunity to buy additional months of health insurance. All of their time just goes into a bank, one bank, not two, just one single bank. Still paid out at $147 per day and into a TSA, okay? No health benefit, but in order for them to receive that, they have to be here 10 years full-time consecutive service just prior to retirement, okay? Keep up with those, all right. All right, so here's our groups. This is where things get interesting as we get rolling forward, okay? Employees who are eligible to retire and retire before June 30th of 2025 receive 36 months of health and drug coverage, okay? So they just automatically get 36 months, 3 years, right there. They have to pay their premium share, but the district covers the rest of that. That's their OPEB benefit, okay? They also can purchase additional months of coverage with their Bank 1 and Bank 2. All right, so we have a small group in that hat. There's about 183 employees right now who would be eligible for that benefit going forward. So we'll see what happens in the next 2 years, see how this is going to affect everything from staffing to our OPEB contributions to health insurance costs. All of it gets affected here in the next 2 years. Yes.
They can purchase additional time beyond the 3 years, you're saying, right?
If they have the
If they
sick
have
leave.
the,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, they could do that with their Bank 1 or Bank 2. Yep. Okay. All right, then we have the next group of employees. They're eligible to retire and choose to retire between July 1st of 2025 and June 30th of 2035. That's a 10-year window. They would receive 24 months of health and drug coverage, right? They have to pay the premium, the district pays the rest, and then purchase additional with their 2 banks, their additional time. We're working on the breakout for that group right now, but it's around 380 in that category. Okay. Next group then would be July 1st, 2035 and June 30th of 2045. Or until the last employee hired prior to July 1st, 2015 is eligible for the early retirement benefit. They would receive 12 months of coverage and then can convert just like the rest of the groups. Any questions on those 3 groups? So you're looking at, when this was decided back in 2015, it was a 30-year commitment that was made in order for us to, kind of see everybody out, okay? So we just continue to go down that path. You're looking at 2035 to 2045. There aren't that many employees in that group, just so you know. I mean, because we've hired so many. I think we looked at the numbers last year, and there were literally 852 or something like that have been hired since 2015. So we're seeing those numbers dwindle, but it still could really affect and impact our budget as we go forward. And then, of course, our employees hired after July 1st, 2015, there's, equally as many on that side because they've been hired since then, 800 something. Any questions on that? Okay, so that's kind of the overview on what are our benefits. And of course, all of our employees, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that that's just what the school district of Janesville offers as a retirement, right? So we have the Wisconsin Retirement System, WRS, which is #1 in the country for retirement systems. And one of the things that we are really working to do in the benefits department is educate those young people as far from a retention perspective. Stay in this profession, stay with this, because not only are you getting, having this great opportunity, this great experience working here? You get this great benefit from the school district of Janesville, but in addition, you get the Wisconsin retirement system. And if we can only get everybody to understand that, we really work hard to get those financial webinars out there for them. We just had one last week. So, yes.
I have a question that may be a dumb question.
Nah.
Are there health insurance opportunities through the Wisconsin retirement program? I'm just, thinking sometimes there's groups of insurance offerings.
So what happens in the school district is our employees, once they retire, only get health insurance. They don't get dental or vision, and those are all voluntary. So there are different organizations that put our retirees together in a group to provide opportunities for them to get maybe a group coverage through like WEAC and different programs like that. But it's not specifically provided through the WRS. Yeah, because yep, you're part of it.
Are there any other questions or comments? No.
Great.
Yeah, thank you for this overview. We appreciate it. And I just have to say, I never can remember what OPEB. I sit at so many meetings and think, what is that OPEB again? So thank you for clearly defining that. Keep defining from time to time, because some of us might need those reminders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now moving to review Neola draft policies and consider moving to full board for adoption, and this is an action item. Is there any conversation or comments that we typically have? I mean, are there any questions? I received them and had a chance to look over everything. I didn't have any comments.
It's good nighttime reading for me.
It was lengthy.
I didn't have any questions. They were pretty well self-explanatory.
Yeah. Okay, well, seeing there's no questions or comments on that, we need a motion to send Neola draft policies to the full board for adoption as presented.
So moved.
Are there any questions? Nope, we already did that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I was an aye for that, by the way. I just forgot to say it. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Are there any announcements and updates? We do not have a meeting set. Do we have an official, is it on this calendar?
You do have on the calendar, December 5th is
Okay.
the next PPC meeting.
Yeah, we scheduled that out for
Yes.
the year. Okay, thank you. So the next meeting is December.
December 5th at 4:30 p.m. here at the Educational Services Center.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming in your time tonight. We appreciate it.